Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. In this short video we're going to take a look at programming in the specific takeoff data into the FMC for the PMDG Boeing 737 and where you find that information on the flight plans. So we are here at Vancouver International Airport. We have a flight plan for Vancouver to Calgary, Alberta, short flight. But we're going to go in, the aircraft is set up to the position where we would start entering in this information. We'll go take a look and we'll take a look at the information we need and where you actually find it in the flight plan and how you use the performance calculator that I use for getting the information that you need. So let's go to the cockpit and we can get started. Okay, welcome to the cockpit of the PMDG Boeing 737-700. This information will work with all variants of the PMDG 737. This just happens to be the one I have fired up for today. So the first thing we're going to need is our SimBrief flight plan, and there's a certain format we need it to be in. So let me just bring that up now. So here in our flight plan, you can see we've entered the information in. We're flying from Vancouver, CYVR, to Calgary, CYYC, and your aircraft type is the Boeing 737-700. For the layout, for the information you're going to need to make sure that you can find it and the flight plan has it all, you're going to want to be in the Lido format. For the A320, I fly with my flight plan in the EasyJet format, as you can see here, but for the 737 you're going to want the Lido format. So that's EasyJet, we want the Lido format. So that's the format it has to be in. Once you have all that and you generate your flight plan, we'll just give it a second to go. There we go. And now we scroll down and we get the text of our flight plan right here. Now the second thing you're going to need is the VAS airplane toolbox. There is a link in the description below that'll take you there where you can get it. Once you're there, it's a web browser application. Once you're there, you will see something like this. This has many profiles for many different types of aircraft, and you want to find the one that you're using it with. So we're going to go to page 2, I think it is. No, page 3. We're going to go to page 3, and you'll see here Boeing 737-700, and we're going to click Load Aircraft. And it has the 600, the 700, and the 800, and the 900. So we'll click Load Aircraft under the 700. Aircraft settings are now loaded and it is ready to use. The two we're going to be using are the takeoff over here and the landing located just below it. Landing's fairly simple for the data that you're going to need. We'll take a look at that at the end. Takeoff is the one we're mainly concerned with at the moment. So let's put this away at the moment. We can come down here now and take a look at the FMC. Alright, I'm going to adjust my view. Let's go this way, so that the FMC is available. And over here I will put up the charts and the information as we need them. Alright. So we're on the performance initialization page. If you don't know where that is, if you go to the main index, it gives us our identification. So we want to make sure our charts and everything are good. Our position, we set that up. And then performance. So the first thing we're going to want is our gross weight, as you can see here. It already has our roughed out center of gravity. So for this information, we are going to want our flight plan. So we'll just go over to our flight plan and bring it up. So in the Lido format, you will find that information located here at the top of the flight plan. So our gross weight, if we look over here, our maximum and our estimated weights, we have our takeoff weight, our landing weight, and our zero fuel weights. So our estimated takeoff weight is 58,015. So we can treat that as our estimated gross weight. It wants it in decimals, so it'll be 58.0. So we'll punch that in. There we go. And let's turn this up to give us a little bit of help. I believe this is actually the pedestal. So we'll just come down here to the pedestal light. And we'll come back up. There we go. I even use these to brighten it up during the day just to make sure that everything is nice and visible. Planned fuel. It wants what the flight plan says. So if we come here to the flight plan, we'll see planned fuel. And we want to go all the way to the bottom where it says block fuel at Vancouver. And that is 6002, so 6,002 kilograms. Again, it is a decimal, so it'll be 6.0. We'll enter that in now. And that has 6.0. The aircraft currently has 11.4, so in the fueling process they would defuel it to 6.0. Our zero fuel weight is roughed in already, so we don't have to worry about that. Reserves for our reserve fuel is the FinRes number. That's our final reserve fuel, and that is our how much we have in reserve. If we go down here, we have information for our taxi, which we don't need to add that in, and our alternate. We just want to know our final reserve, and it would be it's 953 kilograms, so 0.9 of a ton. We'll enter that in there. Cost index, however you want to fly the aircraft. For the virtual airline I fly for, the 737 is flown on a cost index of 25. And it works best to do these in order as you go down. For our altitude today, if we come up here under where it says our alternate is CYEG, which is Edmonton, you'll see flight level steps, CYVR, which is Vancouver, 0390, so we're going up to flight level 390. No step climbs involved, so we'll put flight level 390 in there. It's now asking for our cruise winds. So if we go to the very top under some of the information here, not sure why that cost index says 35, but come down here, you'll see average winds 004 at 20, so that is what we're going to type in. 004, that's the heading, at 20, that's the speed, 20 knots. That's now entered in. It's our outside air temperature. That's fine. Transition altitude, you could enter it in, 18,000 feet North American Standard. And we are good. Everything is now filled in that it needs. So we will hit execute. Once you do that, you'll see aircraft comes up. So that's our now aircraft performance initialization, and that is all entered in there. Now we want to go to N1 limits, and it's going to be asking for some other information. And to get that, we have to go to our calculator. Alright, so we're going to click on the takeoff button, and it's now going to want some information here in the calculator. ICAO is the departure airport ICAO, so it's CYVR for Vancouver. It's going to want to know what runway we're taking off on, and in this case we'll use 26 left. So we'll go to 26 left. That's telling us the total runway length is 3,505 meters. That's fine. We're not taking off on an intersection, so we don't have to worry about any of this information. We'll come down here to the weather data, and we'll just pull in the MEDAR for the airport. And that's now pulled in. So it is 19 degrees Celsius. We have an ESA deviation of 4 degrees. The barometer is 3018. That's in inches of mercury, and it gives it in hectopascals as well if you need it. You can change it there, which we won't need to. Gives us the wind speed, 300 degree wind heading at 8 knots, and then we have knots, we can change that. Some countries in Asia and stuff use miles per hour. Runway condition dry. If it's raining or if it's snowy, we can make all the changes here that we need to make. And then we need our aircraft settings. So again, we want our planned takeoff weight. So going back to SimBrief, you can see here our planned takeoff weight, 58.0, but it wants the full number. So it's 58015, 58015, and that is the planned takeoff weight now entered in. If we're flying in winter and we have anti-ice on or off, it'll be engine or engine and wing. We'll have it off. Flaps, we'll let it tell us what flaps to use. Engine bleeds, whether we're taking off with the bleeds on or the bleeds off. Shorter runway, you're going to want maximum power out of the engines. You probably have bleeds off. Thrust, it'll tell us the thrust to use, and it will work out the assumed temperature. So we have all the information we need, and the information will display here once we hit calculate. So there's the information that we need today. So maximum takeoff weight, 70,080 kilograms. We're well below that, so we are good. Now, first thing we need, if we take a look at our FMC, is we need the SEL temp. So our SEL temp is 45. So we're going to come down, type 45, and insert that. And that is giving us our SEL temp. Now, if we take a look and read this here, it says we want a 22K TO -1, and that will set the N1 rotation to a maximum of 87.1. So we're not going to be going to full power. And if we look here on the left side in the middle, you'll see we have 4 modes. There's a 24K, a 22K, a 20K, and then a 26K bump, which is like a full power, extremely short runway takeoff. But we want a D rate, so we're going to go to the 22K, which is TO1. So we will select that, and we can select the climb mode. It doesn't tell us, but these are various power settings for gentle climb and a little bit more power on climb and a full climb power. And it is selected for us climb 2. We can change it to climb 1. We can go to normal climb. We'll leave it at climb 2 for this. So that information is all in, and that's just to set power for takeoff. We can then come over here to our takeoff data, and it wants some information. We're going to go to page 2 first, and it wants the runway winds. So going back to our calculator, because we just imported it, we can just scroll up and we can see it. Winds at takeoff will be 300 at 8, so we can enter that in. If you do this after doing the other page, it'll make you do the calculations. So that is set runway conditions, dry, wet, or SKR, which I believe is contaminated. We don't need all the other information there is set. So we are good with what we have. We can go back to page 1, and we're now going to enter in the rest of the information. So for takeoff performance, it says it's going to be a flaps 1 takeoff. So you can tell the system it's a flaps 1 takeoff. To get your center of gravity, click on the button once. It will calculate 17.5. Click on it again, and it'll insert. And when you're setting your trim, you'll see it says 6.31. What you want to do is roll your trim to that number. So 6.31 is about 6 1/3. So if you look at your trim numbers, you have 5, and then the next one here is 6. You would want to roll your trim back to its 6 plus about 1/3 of the way to 7. And it can take a little bit to do this. So we'll just keep it rolling. You don't have to be precise with it. We'll go about there, and that's about 1/3. So that is our trim set for that one. just move up a little bit, get this back where we can see it. There we go. So with the trim set, we're now good to select our speeds. See, with QRH on, it will give us the references, and we just click here. And with our V1 of 118, VR of 112, and V2 of 128, that is now set. Let's say 112, 122. And if when we come up top, we can take a look at our primary flight display, and it'll show there's our N1 of 118 set already. So that is how you enter in all the information for your takeoff. We'll do a quick look at the landing. It is a lot simpler. So we come back to our initial reference, our index, and our approach is where you will enter in your landing information. And it just basically wants to know which flaps you are going to be using. So you don't need to go through the calculator. We'll take a look and see what it does in a second. So with our flaps, you just pick which one you want. It's usually going to be flaps 30 or flaps 40. So flaps 30, we'll pick it there. It'll put it down in the scratch pad. We then come up here, click in. There's flaps 30 and 127. And coming up, when we look at our ND, you can see that it is showing right here our reference for flaps 30 and 128 is our reference speed. So adding 5 for our approach speed, you would set in the FCP 132 knots as your final approach speed. If we want to take a look at what the takeoff settings are, the landing settings are, we would enter in the same basic information. It's the runway, which is Charlie Yankee Charlie Charlie for Vancouver. Charlie Yankee Yankee Charlie for Vancouver. We'll enter runway 35 right. See, it's 4,267 meters. Not an issue. We're using the full length. We're not restricted. We can grab the weather for Vancouver now. That gives us the barrow, what the winds are, and the runway condition. We can enter all that information in. Let's say it's raining, so if the runway is wet. Our landing weight, going back to our flight plan, you can see LAW, our estimated landing weight. So it would be 55,195. So we can enter that in, 55,195. Anti-ice will be off, engine bleeds will be on, reversers we're going to be using, it will not be an auto land. And we can come down here to calculate. So this gives us a bit of information. It's saying we should do a flaps 40 landing. It has our maximum landing weight, and we are well below that, so we're good. Gives us the landing altitude for the airport, which is important for setting in the pressurization, although we can also get that off of the charts for the airport. It gives us our approach speed and our V reference speed. So 131, we figured out 132. And then there's our reference speed of 126. And then over here, we have how much runway remaining we will have for braking. AB1 is auto brake 1, auto brake 2. And if we look over here, we can see the auto brake selector right here. There's auto brake 1, 2, 3, and max. And you got to pull it out for max. So we have 1, 2, 3 max, and then if we just do manual braking and just do it ourselves full tilt, it gives us in green the remaining distance. So you know auto brake 1, if we land in the touchdown zone at 40 degree flaps at our reference speed, we will have between 2772 and 1495 meters available. And as you add more stronger braking, that number will increase as our distance remaining gets bigger. If we were to come up here and say that we were going to do let's say the conditions were different, contaminated and icy, and did the calculations. Ooh, come on. There we go. So if we look at auto brake 2, our minimum that we should have is our 1761, and if we do calculate, we're now down to 1463, but still within our limit with the green. If that gets closer to 0, it'll go yellow, and then it'll go red if it says no, you're not going to be able to land with auto brake 1, you'll go off the end of the runway. I hope this has helped getting used to using the FMC in the PMDG 737 and using the calculator and the calculation tools to enter in the information to get the best performance you can out of the aircraft. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one. Don't forget to subscribe, click that like button, and we'll see you in the air. Bye for now.